is a lot more gruntier sound, a much lower tone, but also I think that might be affected by this optional GR airbox as well as those GR exhaust pipes. Hello and welcome to another new versus used video where we are going to be comparing the brand new Toyota GR86 with the slightly older but still very relevant GT86. So join us as we go through some of what the similarities are as well as what are the main differences. So this exact GT86 that we have in the studio is in fact a 2015 model year car and in the high specification. What does that entail? Well, the high specification got these daytime running lights as well as 17-inch alloy wheels with Michelin tires, whereas the standard model got 16-inch wheels with Yokohama tires. Then also at the rear there's a body-colored boot spoiler, and then on the inside you can expect a lot more luxury with leather and Alcantara inserts. To my right here is a 2024 model year GR86. And unlike the GT86, it comes only in one specification level, meaning that the only real choices you have to make is whether you're going to take the 6-speed manual or the 6-speed automatic transmission, just like you had available in the GT86. Except some of those eagle-eyed viewers will notice some of these very specific trim pieces found around this car, and we're going to go through those as well. But first, let's get into the performance. Looking at the engines, you're going to notice that they are very similar in the way they look. Well, and that's for two good reasons. You see, both of them are sourced from Subaru, and both of them are boxer motors. Yes, horizontally opposed pistons moving left and right and generating your power. Speaking of power, the GT86 will produce from its naturally aspirated 2-liter engine 147 kilowatts and 205 newton meters of torque, whereas the GR86, which comes fitted with a 2.4-liter naturally aspirated motor, will produce 174 kilowatts and 250 newton meters of torque. So how does that really affect you on a daily basis? Well, you see, in two ways really. Firstly, fuel consumption. Even with a slightly heavier right foot, the GT86 should return realistically anything from the low 8 to mid 8 liters per 100 kilometers. With the GR86 you can expect anything from the mid 8 all the way to the low 9 liters per 100 kilometers with the same driving style. But from a daily driving perspective, they also are very different sounding cars. Yes, both of them are sports cars. You are going to get a lot of the noises coming from the engine bay as well as around you. But also just the way the engines sound is sort of distinguishable. You see, in this one, very much more of that traditional Subaru sound, and also a lot more noise from the transmission. Not a bad noise, don't get me wrong. If you're into sports cars, you're going to very much like it, but a much more high-pitched sound from this. Whereas in the GR86 is a lot more gruntier sound, a much lower tone, but also I think that might be affected by this optional GR airbox as well as those GR exhaust pipes. But a much more gruntier, deeper sound. Both of them, road noise, not too great, but then again, what do you expect from cars that are meant to be light? Not much insulation, if you know what I mean. But now let's go and dive a little bit deeper in the styling. When you compare the GT86 and the GR86 from a styling perspective, well, it's unmistakably from the same sort of family. You can see it in the silhouette, the low sports car coupe styling. But ultimately with the GR86, it's much more rounded. You can see it in the headlights and just the overall feel of the body. Whereas in the GT86, much sharper, much more angular. definitely more razor bladey than this. But even though it's more rounded, the GR86, there's a lot more function. That front grille, much larger than the one on a GT86, it allows much more cold air to reach the engine bay. But also, these aggressive sort of air dams has holes allowing air to reach the brakes that sits behind these, well, very bespoke 18-inch alloy wheels. And well, they finished in this very nice satin black finish. I quite like that. Behind it is very contrasting red Brembo brakes. Yeah, and they do stop quite well. Just behind the front wheel well, you're gonna get these nice little GR flares with the GR branding incorporated. I quite like this from a styling perspective. It just breaks up the shape from the side. But it's also functional. It allows air to travel from the inside of the wheel well and escape through these little holes and down the sides of the car, making the car a lot more stable at higher speeds. But then as you move to the back, you're going to notice there's a very oddly shaped fuel filler cap. So what is that about? Well, if you're going to compare the shape to the shape of the headlamp, the pop-up headlamps on a Toyota 2000 GT, you'll note that they're very much the same. So yeah, Toyota still incorporates a lot of its heritage into this car's design. Step around the rear and that rounded theme continues. The lines are just so ever so slightly softer. And then at the top here, instead of the optional body colored rear wing, you've got sort of this little ducktail built into the design of the car. That's standard on the GR86. You'll very quickly notice the GR moniker, which is also on those side sills as well as on the front grille. But at the same time, it's also hidden here on these optional exhaust pipes. Yeah, on the side here, it also says GR. But something that harks back again to the earlier model is the 86 numbering at the rear of the GR86. Very nice. But then let's take a look at these lights. See, it seems as though Toyota went the exact opposite that they did on the GT86. See, the GT86 starts very thin and then the light grows out. Whereas in the GR86, it starts very wide and then it goes down to a point. So, but still very, very nice. Then, as you'll note here at the back, nice reverse camera. Resolution, okay, still good enough to see exactly what you're doing, but not as high quality as you can expect in some of their other products. And then hidden in this black trim piece that sort of connects the rear lights, you actually have the boot button to open up the boot. Now, speaking of the boot, the capacity on the GR86 is up to 237 liters, whereas on the GT86, you're looking at up to 223 liters. So there's slightly more space here, but all in all, not the most practical cars if you want to lug around a lot of gear. Step inside the GR86 here and you're going to notice, well, it's literally the successor to a GT86. It's the GT86 but better. I mean, even the sort of theme inside for the interior design is very similar, just a little bit more modern. And well, everything is just that touch more. So yeah, I mean, take for instance the screen on the center console. No longer a tiny little unit with only Bluetooth connectivity and or CDs. Now you've got an 8-inch unit that offers you, well, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and all of that functionality. No longer do you just have a steering wheel, you've got a multifunction steering wheel. Why? Because your instrument cluster is no longer analog, it's now more digital. Safety systems have been stepped up. You've got blind spot monitoring, you've got lane departure warning, even an emergency braking system if somebody puts the anchors on in front of you. So yes, it's a GT86, just, well, better. So what about the driving? Well, you see, The GR86, I would say, even with that additional bracing inside the bonnet there, you're gonna still find it more compliant than the GT86, believe it or not. And then the steering, well, the GR steering is much lighter. There's a almost nicer feel, at least in my opinion, in the GT86. So it's sort of, well, very much the same but different in terms of just the driving side. But now, what if you are actually looking to purchase either one of these cars? Should you spend the 786,000 Rand on a GR86, and that's without those little optional trinkets that I've been pointing out throughout this video? Or should you be bargaining for anything between 270 to 300,000 Rand and get yourself a decent example used on our website? And that's sort of, well, depends on what you're going to be doing with the car. I would imagine, after having driven both of them back to back, that sitting in a GR86 in traffic with these additional sort of like comfort and safety features will make it just slightly better for the daily user. Whereas the GT86 is more geared to, you're only going to be using it on weekends or track days, or, well, just for that occasional stint, and you want to get a smile on your face, because trust me, both these cars are going to put a smile on your face. So which one should you get? Well, I would say if you can afford this, you're going to use it more, get the GR86. If it's literally that weekend toy, I don't think you're going to miss out too much if you're just going to get yourself a GT86. After all, it's then not about playing with an infotainment system, it's about playing with the car. And that's my conclusion. But if you want to sort of add in what you think, please let us know in the comments below, and also like, subscribe this video, and let us know which new versus used you would like to see us do next. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.